How that curve right across here comes in, we refer to it as interpolation. So how are we taking control instead of the default where it was kind of zagging, just zigging in and out?
When you put that bend in there.
We changed the interpolation of it at that time. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's just take a look here for a second. Let's go back to my window timeline. I don't know why I closed it. Sorry about that. Timeline. What else can we do to that sphere? These came in by default when we clicked the little red button, even though we may or may not need all of them, right? And so if I click the sphere and come up Create Property Track, we can actually animate. There's the scale, position, rotation. We can change the radius of that sphere over time, the number of segments over time. Y'all see that? So let's say I want to change the radius, and I'm just going to, so I added radius. I'm going to add a keyframe. I'm going to let it start and end at the same place, so it kind of gives a back and forth.
What key do you press to add keyframes?
I'm holding the control and clicking on the timeline.
Okay.
And so here in the middle, thank you.
And that was to what?
To add a keyframe, control click on the timeline.
Okay.
So I added a property track. This one's the radius of that sphere, right? By default, it's a 100 centimeter radius. I'm going to have it go down to a 1 centimeter radius.
To like a speck. Okay.
So I'm animating, in that case, the radius of the sphere. And a sphere also has a property track of segments. Let's change its number of segments. By default, it's 36, I think. We'll find out. So 24. Let's take it down to 4 and see what happens. And let's make that a little bigger so we can see it as it changes. See how it's changing the number of segments?
It goes from a low poly to
It goes from 24 segments down to 6 segments. So we can change, because those are the properties of the sphere. If we were to look at, let's just look at a couple of them real quickly. What are the properties of a cone? This one has a whole lot more. The slice, the to from, the caps can all be animated. The top radius, the bottom radius. So every object that we add, cone, cube.
Like a figure.
We'll stay away from the figure right now.
it's a whole
So
other
what?
beast.
Well, because it's not really.
Oh, you don't.
Yeah. But so there's all the properties of a sphere. How about a light? Here's all the different properties of a light. They can each have its own separate timeline. We can animate the color of the light over time. We can animate the intensity of the light over time. We can change its shadow over time.
So you could have like disco lights.
Sure.
Okay.
Now, let's see if we can put someone into a seizure this morning. I'm going to create property track. Let's go in and intensity. And turn that off for just a second. Thank you. So at frame 0, it's 100. At frame 3, it goes down to 0. Now, I don't feel like doing it over and over again, so I'm just going to come grab those two, hold the control key, and duplicate them out. In the full version, there's something called sequences. I could define this as a sequence and then say repeat yourself 27 times or whatever it takes. Did I get it right? No, I don't. Let's make sure. Oh, the light's in there in the middle of everything is why you can't see it changing. No, that's not what's going on. Did I put 2 zeros and copy the 2 zeros? Probably. Let's see if I can go troubleshoot real quick, and then we'll call it. Stop on this one. Timeline. It's showing. Oh, that's what I did. Okay, so I copied 0 and 0. I forgot. Okay, that's why we're not getting it. So there. Now this. Watch this. I want that one and that one and that one and that one. I'm holding the Command key now to select individual keyframes, so I don't have to go and do each one individually. And I'm going to change them all to 100 at the same time.
Command key to select individual keyframes.
Yes.
So there's the intensity changing.
Turn into a strobe light.
Here is great, add property track color. Let's let it turn green, which means we're going to yellow, which means we're going to subtract blue from it. So here's my color blue. Starts off at 100. It should go down to 0. Yep. And again, highlight those two. Hold my control key and just drag them over. We'll let it change colors a few times in there at varying rates. So it's changing from white to yellow because we're subtracting blue out of the equation. And
Didn't you just drag out blue?
all 3 colors full intensity is white. Taking the blue away means I'm full intensity red and green, which is yellow. So I have, if we look at what I did to the blue, I have it going from 100% to 0%.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we're subtracting out the blue to get to that.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's add a camera real quickly, and then we'll stop this video and do some more videos. A camera. Great. Property tracks. Well, there's all the properties of a camera.
Dang.
They can each have their own individual timeline. We can animate a material. And each one has it can have its own separate timeline. Let's go into the material. Color. We'll make it start off red. Let's stop the rendering for just a second so the processor can catch up with us. Okay. So we're going to add color. We're going to make it somewhere in the blue range, right? So we have that material over here, I hope. Let's put it on something so we can see it taking place. So material, we're going to create a property track and we'll change its color. It's got blue on it, so we'll add some red to it as it goes through to bring it to magenta. So keyframe red, it's going to start off with 27 red, and then I'm going to let it go up to 100 red. Highlight those two, hold my control key, and let it do that a few times. And just for fun, I'm also going to put it on the cone and the sphere so that we see it happening to all of them. See the color changing on it, as well as the light. So we can animate materials. We can animate tags. We can so anything that we can put on the timeline, we can animate and it'll have its own set of properties. That's why we were talking about the properties manager when we were modeling. Okay? Questions?